So what I ask of you, graduates, as you walk out of here today is this: pursue success. Do not falter. When you make it, pull somebody else up. Preserve our dream. Remember, your life is richer when people around you have a shot at opportunity as well. Strive to widen that circle of possibility, strive to forge that big, generous, optimistic vision of America that we inherited. Strive to carry that dream forward to future generations. Thank you. Congratulations. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America. Barack Obama. Commencement address at the University of Michigan. Delivered May 1, 2010. It is great to be here in the big house, and so may I say, go blue. I thought I'd go for the cheap applause line to start things off. Good afternoon, President Coleman, the Board of Trustees, to faculty, parents. Family and friends of the class of 2010. Congratulations on your graduation, and thank you for allowing me the honor of being a part of it. Let me acknowledge your wonderful governor, Jennifer Granholm. Your mayor, John Haift, and all the members of Congress who are here today. It is a privilege to be with you on this happy occasion, and you know, it's nice to spend a little time outside of Washington. Now, don't get me wrong, Washington is a beautiful city. It's very nice living above the store, you can't beat the commute. It's just sometimes all you hear in Washington is the clamor of politics. And all that noise can drown out the voices of the people who sent you there. So when I took office, I decided that each night I would read 10 letters out. Of the tens of thousands that are sent to us by ordinary Americans every day. This is my modest effort to remind myself of why I ran in the first place. Some of these letters tell stories of heartache and struggle. Some express gratitude, some express anger. I'd say a good solid third call me an idiot, which is how I know that I'm getting a good. Representative sample. Some of the letters make you think like the one that I received last month from a kindergarten class in Virginia. Now, the teacher of this class instructed the students to ask me any question they wanted. So one asked, "How do you do your job?" Another asked, "Do you work a lot?" Somebody wanted to know if I wear a black jacket or if I have a beard. So clearly they were getting me mixed up with the other tall guy from Illinois. And one of my favorites was from a kid who wanted to know if I lived next to a volcano. I'm still trying to piece the thought process on this one. Love this letter. But it was the last question from the last student in the letter that gave me pause. The student asked, "Are people being nice? Are people being nice?" Well, if you turn on the news today, or yesterday, or a week ago, or a month ago, particularly one of the cable channels, you can see why even a kindergartner would ask this question. We've got politicians calling each other all sorts of unflattering names. Pundits and talking heads shout at each other. The media tends to play up every hint of conflict, because it makes for a sexier story, which means anyone. Interested in getting coverage feels compelled to make their arguments as outrageous and as incendiary as possible. Now, some of this contentiousness can be attributed to the incredibly difficult moment in which we find ourselves as a nation. The fact is, when you leave here today, you will search for work in an economy. That is still emerging from the worst crisis since the Great Depression. You live in a century where the speed with which jobs and industries move across the globe is forcing America to compete like never before. You will raise your children at a time when threats like terrorism and climate change aren't confined within the borders of any one country. And as our world grows smaller and more connected, you will live and work with more people who don't look like you or think like you or come from where you do. I really enjoyed Alex's remarks because that's a lot of change. And all these changes, all these challenges, inevitably cause some tension in the body politic. They make people worry about the future, and sometimes they get people riled up. But I think it's important that we maintain some historic perspective. Since the days of our founding, American politics has never been a particularly nice business. It's always been a little less gentile during times of great change. A newspaper of the opposing party once editorialized that if Thomas Jefferson were elected, murder. Robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. Not subtle. Opponents of Andrew Jackson often referred to his mother as a common prostitute, which seems a little over the top. Presidents from Teddy Roosevelt to Lyndon Johnson have been accused of promoting socialism, or worse. And we've had arguments between politicians that have been settled with actual duels. There was even a caning once on the floor of the United States Senate, which I'm happy to say didn't happen while I was there. It was a few years before. The point is, politics has never been for the thin-skinned or the faint of heart. And if you enter the arena, you should expect to get roughed up. Moreover, democracy in a nation of more than 300 million people is inherently difficult. It's always been noisy and messy, contentious, complicated. We've been fighting about the proper size and role of government since the day the framers gathered in Philadelphia. We've battled over the meaning of individual freedom and equality since the Bill of Rights was drafted. As our economy has shifted emphasis from agriculture to industry, to information. To technology, we have argued and struggled at each and every juncture. Over the best way to ensure that all of our citizens have a shot at opportunity. So before we get too depressed about the current state of our politics, let's remember our history. The great debates of the past all stirred great passions. They all made somebody angry, and at least once led to a terrible war. What is amazing is that despite all the conflict, despite all its flaws and its frustrations, our experiment in democracy has worked better than any form of government on earth. On the last day of the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was famously asked, "Well, doctor, what have we got, a republic or a monarchy?" And Franklin gave an answer that's been quoted for ages. He said, "A republic, if you can keep it. If you can keep it." Well, for more than 200 years, we have kept it. Through revolution and civil war, our democracy has survived. Through depression and world war, it has prevailed. Through periods of great social and economic unrest, from civil rights to women's rights. It has allowed us slowly, sometimes painfully, to move towards a more perfect union. And so now, class of 2010, the question for your generation is this: how will you keep our democracy going? At a moment when our challenges seem so big and our politics seem so small. How will you keep our democracy alive and vibrant? How will you keep it well in this century? I'm not here to offer some grand theory or detailed policy prescription. But let me offer a few brief reflections based on my own experiences. And the experiences of our country over the last 2 centuries. First of all, American democracy has thrived because we have recognized the need for a government that while limited, can still help us adapt to a changing world. On the fourth panel of the Jefferson Memorial is a quote I. Remember reading to my daughters during our first visit there. It says, I am not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions. But, with the change of circumstances, institutions must advance also to keep pace with the times. The democracy designed by Jefferson and the other founders was never intended to solve every problem with a new law or a new program. Having thrown off the tyranny of the British Empire, the first Americans were understandably skeptical of government. And ever since we've held fast to the belief that government doesn't have all the answers. And we have cherished and fiercely defended our individual freedom. That's a strand of our nation's DNA. But the other strand is the belief that there are some things we can only do together. As one nation, and that our government must keep pace with the times. When America expanded from a few colonies to an entire continent, and we needed a way to reach the Pacific, our government helped build the railroads. When we transitioned from an economy based on farms to one based on factories, and workers needed new skills and training, our nation set up a system of public high schools. When the markets crashed during the Depression and people lost their life savings, our government put in place a set of rules and safeguards to make sure that such a crisis never happened again. And then put a safety net in place to make sure that our elders would never be impoverished the way they had been. and because our markets and financial systems have evolved since then. We're now putting in place new rules and safeguards to protect the American people.